Good people? Back at it for another week, another episode of the Story with LJ Mental Podcast. As always, I'm your host with the most, LJ. Back in here for another week. Yeah, and we continue with the theme this month. Black History Month, you know what it is. Something to be celebrated. Um, and all this month, every week, I'm gonna be talking about a different aspect of Black history. I wanted to add in something from I think the beginning of this nation in the U.S. and I also wanted to add something from modern times, something more modern. So combination of both each week. So last week we touched on. If you haven't listened to it, you should. Last week, episode number 40. We talked about technology because I thought it was important to address because I feel like for one, black people haven't really gotten opportunities. I think in a lot of these technologies from companies as far as technology, um, and I thought it was important to acknowledge some of the many contributions that a lot of black people have contributed to technology throughout the years that we've never gotten credit for. A lot of it just doesn't has not been in the history books. Years ago, we didn't have Google to look things up. Um, but yeah, I thought it was really important. That was an aspect I don't feel like was really ever really touched on enough. And yeah, I thought it was really important to address that. So this week, so we're gonna focus on the word of the week is sports. So we continue in that theme this month of talking about different aspects of black history throughout this country, in the U.S. Many contributions. It's going to be hard to get to them all. I might cover some other aspects in the future, but I just wanted to address some important figures. So this week we're focusing on sports, and it's many. Obviously now black folks are all throughout pro sports and dominating. Because there's a lot of black athletes that are incredible. White athletes too, Hispanic, other races, but as far as social justice change, I think sports is a major part of that, which is crazy that when people said Colin Kaepernick is not the right place to bring the peaceful protests to his job, even though it's a major platform, it actually didn't make any sense because people have been doing that for years, bringing it to your platform to create awareness. And a lot of us, definitely in the black community, salute Colin Kaepernick. Unfortunately, a lot of white America and others did not initially, but they're starting to come around now. But yeah, let's get right into it. So first, I want to talk about. This goes way back, I think, in many aspects. I want to talk about the Olympics. Um, just like every other aspect in this country, black folks have been discriminated against throughout the history of this country. We know what it is. No bullshit. We know. Um, we've had the capabilities, the talent, the um, the many attributes needed to compete and be the best in whatever the sport. And I think the Olympics has a lot of history behind it, especially like with Jesse Owens back in the 1936 Olympics in Germany, Berlin. Um, we all know probably what a lot of people take away from it is Jesse Owens is one of the major figures of that Olympics and did really well, won gold medals, and was a winner in 100 meter, 200 meter dash. He actually I think he tied the record at the time, 9.4 for the 100 meter dash. He won the Olympics that year in track and field, and We all know that Hitler, obviously Adolf Hitler at the time, German white man, uh, he was showing that he was discriminating against not just black folks. He did discriminate against anyone who's not a Nazi. Um, so I mean, it just goes to show you that not only black folks getting discriminated in our own country, but no matter where the hell you go, we go to the U.S., especially during those time periods in the 1930s, it's post-slavery, right in the middle of the Jim Crow era, and yeah, it was a lot of discriminatory. No matter where you went throughout the world, not just the U.S., they still look at you as a nigga and will not take you seriously. They're not going to show you no damn respect, even though we did everything to earn that respect. There's still some hating ass motherfuckers, and it's some folks. I mean, you can't be. I guess back during that time period, I guess you can get away with being openly racist, and you didn't have any consequences. Now there's major consequences for people being openly racist and using everything in their power to keep black people out of certain organizations. Throughout society. I mean, it still exists. We know it does. Now there's strategic tactics to try and keep people out. Maybe as far as credit, trying to get a home. You might not be able to get certain jobs. So yeah, they've changed the tactics of how they try and keep black people out in different areas. But it was very blatant during that time period. Jesse Owens was a major figure during that time period. We salute that brother. Obviously, we know about Tommy Smith and John Carlos in the 60s. 1968 Olympics, we know what was up with that. That was the famous Black Power salute. He came out in a later interview, Tommy Smith said it wasn't a Black Power salute, it was a human rights salute. Either way, it was an important message that needed to be sent during that time period. Man, Tommy Smith got death threats, and he was very courageous, and he stood up for what he believed in. Very dominant in the Olympics as well. Just wanted to highlight a few people, and also Jesse Owens as well. I wanted to point out too that that crap he went on in Germany related to him. He comes back home in the U.S. And President Franklin D. Roosevelt only invited the white Olympians to the White House. So Jesse Owens, a very great track and field star, was not invited to the White House. But I mean, we should be surprised during that time period. It's just discriminatory against, but we see how things change over the years. Not that the racism doesn't exist, but how the tactics have changed. We'll see how it was in the 30s, the 60s, and we also want to point out a few people as well. And there's a few black women as well. For one of the most famous and great track stars as well is FloJo. Florence, we all know Florence Joyner, the name, aka everybody knows FloJo. Back in the 80s when the Olympics was out in Los Angeles in the U.S., FloJo was very dominant. I think holds still to this day the record for fastest woman in history. She still holds that record to this day. Record was set back in 1984. She's real dominant in track. She was a beast, and the fact that record still holds to this day is pretty incredible. It goes to show you how amazing FloJo was. And I know a lot of women, a lot of people, period, just look up to FloJo, and she set the bar very high for black women because she was great. Now, the last one to talk about in this area is Gabby Douglas. She was a young lady, young black lady. I think the youngest female to win a gold medal. She was 16. She won the gold medal in 2012. So that's pretty incredible as well. What she did as far as that. So we switching gears a little bit. We're gonna talk about baseball. Baseball. Now, baseball is a sport that I think more and more people. It seems like, especially the younger generation, my generation, I mean, baseball isn't as loved as much as it was. I know it's called America's pastime or whatever. But it seems like a lot of people that like it now is really like the older generation, like the people that go by the old school, like people that say, "Oh yeah, back in my day," or you know. But I mean, me personally, I like the Yankees. And I don't really watch baseball a whole lot. I like it in the playoffs. Oh, more so, but regular season, I don't really watch regular season. For one, I think it's way too many damn games. That's a whole nother story. But the point is, I think this is just another example, another aspect of how black people changed the game forever. We all know about Jackie Robinson, right? Who was the first ever black man to compete in the major leagues. Besides, because he started in the Negro Leagues and ended up on the Brooklyn Dodgers and now the LA Dodgers. They actually have in a Japanese American museum in LA. They actually have some his memorabilia of Jackie Robinson in that museum. I've seen it. It's pretty dope. Nice big display of Jackie Robinson, but yeah, we know he wasn't only the first black man to play in the sport. He was actually very damn good. Um, but the next man I want to talk about actually took it to the next level. Uh, he's a superstar in the sport, a legend, broke records. And I want to talk about Hank Aaron as well. He recently passed away. Rest in peace, Hank Aaron. Um, major contributions to the game of baseball. Um, he set the mark, I think, for future black people in the sport. Ken Griffey Juniors of the world. And even more recently now, to the younger guys, Mookie Betts. There's been a lot of guys that's come after, followed his footsteps. But I feel like Hank Aaron, yeah, he broke, for one, he broke Babe Ruth's record at the time of most home runs in MLB history, and set the bar. And it just goes to show that's another black man just trying to do his thing, just trying to live his life like everybody else, and they wouldn't let him. Some of the racist white folks at the time apparently looked it up. He received over a million pieces of hate mail. He got some happy letters, but that's what it said. Close to a million pieces of hate mail. That's pretty crazy. I don't know over what course of time he received that. A lot of death threats in there, but a lot of hate mail. A lot of the racist folks was so damn upset that they would break their beloved Babe Ruth's record. Records are meant to be broken. It happened. Some are so amazing that you just think it's gonna be hard to break. But Hank Aaron proved how great he was. Not to say Babe Ruth wasn't a great player, but they just couldn't stand the fact of a black man in their eyes, and a nigga that would just break the record of the beloved national beloved Babe Ruth. They just couldn't believe it. But he defied the odds, did his thing, and got the job done. Salute Hank Aaron, one of the greatest baseball players of all time. Some of the sports radio people have talked about him recently because of his passing, and he just acknowledged like how great he was. Like Jackie Robinson was the start. Hank Aaron, I think, took it to the next level. That's how I see that. But rest in peace, Hank Aaron, one of the greatest of all time, and yeah, I think it's great. Now, You know, we can't talk about this segment of sports and leave out boxing, right? So we know that we all know the contributions of Muhammad Ali, right? Um, Muhammad Ali, how he changed the game, but I want to take it back a little further than that, and then get a little more modern. Um, so that was important to mention because boxing is a major sport. I think a lot of different people enjoy. I love boxing myself, but it's interesting the history of boxing in this country. A guy named Jack Johnson is the first heavyweight champion that was black, first man ever, black man, to be a heavyweight champion, and just similar to baseball. Jackie Robinson was the first man in baseball. I think from Jack Johnson, then you got Joe Louis was the second guy. Joe Louis took it to the next level. Beloved champion, beloved superstar, beloved this black man, no nonsense guy. Yeah, he made a champion. Only lost 3 fights, won over 60 fights. Obviously, I couldn't see him live. But you look at some, go look at YouTube, look at Joe Louis fights. Yeah, he was a great champion. There was a white man that beat him, I think, by the name of Rocky Marciano. Looked at as one of, he's the great white hope. Let's just, let's be real, he's the great white hope. He beat Joe Louis. Not to knock Rocky Marciano, because he's an all-time great. But looking at that, and some people, the man retired in his 40s, Rocky Marciano. Never got, but the next generation was Muhammad Ali. I know they did a computer simulation to see who would win between Rocky and because they never actually fought, Rocky Marciano and Ali. But they had Rocky Marciano winning because they look at the two styles, I guess. But they never actually know because Marciano was already retired at the time. So they were kind of a little bit generations apart. I think Ali would have beat him. Who knows? But we want to talk about Muhammad Ali. Ali's looked at as the GOAT, greatest of all time. He even said it himself. I'm the greatest. And you a major figure like that. I know you a major figure like that, and you just start calling yourself something. People gonna run with it too. And Ali, he called himself. He just said, "I'm the greatest. I'm pretty. Felt like a butterfly, sting like a bee." So many quotables from Ali that people just took and ran with. And he's still looked at by a lot of people as the GOAT, still to this day. But not just what he did on the inside of the ring, but on the outside as well. We all know his contributions to civil rights. He was alive during that time period of the civil rights movement. He was first, personal friends with Malcolm X, even Martin Luther King Jr. And he stood for something. He didn't want to go fight in the Vietnam War. He got death threats. This man literally could have died for refusing to go fight in a war. He straight up said it. He was real. I'm not going to fight them people. They ain't do nothing to me. My real enemies are home. You, the white man. You my enemy. You the one calling me a nigga, trying to keep me from reaching my goals. You the one trying to stop me. Y'all the real enemy. Them people over there ain't my enemy. And during that time period, it's easy to love him now, but during that time period, he's one of the most hated individuals in the world, which is crazy. Look at all them polls back then. Ali was disliked a lot, but after he retired, later years in his life, he's beloved by everybody. You wasn't saying that when he needed support. When shit hit the fan, when shit was real at the time, he ain't had that support, which is wild. But Ali, another superstar, champion. We know. I want to get a little modern too. Um, the next few people I'm gonna name, obviously, that could never had the contributions outside of the ring that he did, based on the time period, based on what they did, socially outside the ring. But let's just keep it in the ring for a minute. So Mike Tyson, I want to talk about Mike Tyson in particular. The reason why is because a lot of people, especially black folks from the hood, they looked at him as like he was, even though he had a lot of great champions, not knocking anybody for past, present, whatever, but he was looked at as like, damn, he's our Superman. Like black people come from underprivileged backgrounds who basically had nothing growing up. He was looked at as the guy. And on top of that, not only was he looked at as the guy, but he was the youngest heavyweight champion ever at 20 years old. So that's a major accomplishment. Tyson held the belt for a long time. 37 wins before he took his first loss. Obviously looked at as one of the biggest upsets in history when he lost his first fights, if not the biggest upset in sports history. But during the prime, it was during Tyson's prime. He'd been through a lot. You see his documentary, you see all the shit he went through. Tyson went through a lot of shit, and I do an impersonation of him this time. I'm not doing that today. But Tyson, I think it's important to see, like, dress somebody who's, because I think that's very impressive. Somebody who comes from literally nothing and get to where somebody like Tyson got to. That's more impressive to me than somebody who's like a trust fund kid. Like, seriously, it's not your fault you born into that, but that's real. Like, if you come from the hood, you literally had nothing around you. You might hear gunshots out your door every night. You might have been poor. You might have not had nothing to eat for a few days. You might have had to work with scraps, nothing, and go from that to being a heavyweight champion in the world, making millions. That's super impressive, and that's what Tyson did. So shout out to Tyson, not knocking it, as a lot of other great champions out there. I just wanted to highlight. And the last person box I want to mention is Floyd Mayweather. Is because Floyd Mayweather is 50 and 0. You could say whatever you want about him. You know, some people don't like Floyd. They don't like the way he fight. They don't like how cocky he is. But one thing you can't knock Floyd for is, like, he's actually not any different from a lot of great champions. Ali was super cocky and confident when he was alive. Floyd Mayweather, you know, I don't agree with certain things he says, but one thing I love, after every fight, he always says, I'd like to thank God for this victory, and then he goes into his spiel. Like, I feel like Floyd is humble, and the man is 50, you know, he's never been defeated professionally. Broke Rocky Marciano's record. But there's a guy named Julio Alves who was 70 something and all before he took his fight. He still is not undefeated. Floyd Mayweather is 50 and all. Say what you want about the man, but the man is he's a genius in the ring. He's beating everybody he put in front of him. People say he was running from Pacquiao, running from all these people, but he fought Pacquiao and made him look like he was an amateur. He did. He made Pacquiao look like an amateur. And he fought he fought basically everybody, all the big time fighters during his time period, and he basically made them all look silly. So can't knock Floyd for that. So I'm gonna get out of here. So yeah, there's a lot of great figures in sports. A lot that I'm gonna leave off. But I wanted to address some in the NFL real quick. Doug Williams, first black man to win Super Bowl, which opened the door for a lot of black people in the Super Bowl, for one, because at the time Doug Williams was the only black man that was a starter in the NFL. who actually didn't start that entire year, but he opened the door for guys like for Randall Cunningham, for Warren Moon, who ended up being great players. Unfortunately, didn't win the Super Bowl. Steve McNair, who's played in the Super Bowl, rest in peace to him. Dante Culpepper, name a few great quarterbacks that started in the league. So more recently, Russell Wilson, who won the Super Bowl, and Patrick Mahomes. You know he's half black, but you know this say it, and I think it's true. Any part of you is black, you black. So Patrick Mahomes along with Russell Wilson, first quarterbacks ever to start back-to-back Super Bowls. That includes this past one, even though they lost to the Buccaneers. Patrick Mahomes opened the door. No, I'm sorry, not opened the door, but was just adding to the history of black athletes, showing how great we are. And we all know about the incident with Colin Kaepernick, how he basically sacrificed his career. The man actually started in the Super Bowl, so great contribution by Kaepernick that won't be soon forgotten at all. And lastly, before I get up out of here, touch on NBA real quick. Bill Russell, who was known for winning 11 rings. Not only that, but outside the court, the man was involved in civil rights as well. Was discriminated against, and a lot of folks didn't like him during that time period. But he stood for something as well. And not only that, he was great on the court. And to take it more modern, Magic Johnson, along with white man Larry Bird, took that NBA to a whole new level as far as popularity. Magic Johnson was a superstar, was great. And Michael Jordan, the next guy, made it global. He became a legend and looked at as the greatest of all time, still to this day. And not only that, Michael Jordan not only on the court, but Michael Jordan is also the first majority owner in the NBA. I hope the NFL follows in the footsteps soon, because I think the NFL needs some black ownership. You're starting to see some discrimination still with some coaches that deserve jobs, head coaching jobs like Eric Bieniemy, who didn't get some looks. But I think the next step is we need an NFL owner that's black. Hopefully that happens sometime in the near future. But a lot of figures that I couldn't get to. Maybe I'll cover some more in a later time. But about to get up out of here. Appreciate anybody for listening. This has been another episode of What's the Word with LJ Mental Podcast. Appreciate you for listening. I'm out.